Hey everyone, how you doing? So, PopCap's first attempt at a shooter game in the PvZ franchise. I'll admit, for as many flaws as Garden Warfare 1 might have, it is still a really fun time. Truly, this is one of the most beloved games in this franchise, and it has earned that title through its sheer charm and enjoyability. But with that being said, we all know PopCap at this point. Once they see a winning formula, they take action. And oh boy, did they ever take action here. Not even 2 years after Garden Warfare 1 came out, PopCap revealed a new game to us all, and that game is called Garden Warfare 2. So, welcome back. This is an ongoing series on my channel where I take a look back and review every big official PvZ game made by PopCap, to ultimately see if this franchise is actually good, or if we all just have rose-tinted glasses on at all times. And for today's video, you already know the topic, so before we dive in, let's go over the categories. We're starting with history/story, then gameplay, then extras, and finally, endgame/completion. So without any further ado, let's jump into it by starting with So because the story section never felt long enough on its own, from this point forward, I'll be lumping in the rough history of the games we discuss in this section too. So with that being said, what exactly happened with Garden Warfare 2's development history? Well, it's relatively agreed upon that it started getting developed almost immediately after Garden Warfare 1. And you know what? That kind of tracks with how little Garden Warfare 1 saw in the way of genuine new content beyond characters. I think there was only a few new maps in Taco Bandits, and that was it for Garden Warfare 1. But as for what the other employees were doing, well, they were cooking up some pretty interesting ideas. I'd honestly recommend watching this video made by LT Dark Ring if you're interested in seeing what the dev team was tinkering with, but to give a few examples, PopCap was making a zombossified version of Main Street, they had plans for a whole bunch of bosses, and they were even toying with the idea of even more new variants. Now, as for the story, this game actually has one. The backstory is that Zomboss actually succeeded in taking over Suburbia from the first game, due to him gaining an access to a future technology called the Z-Mechs. Yes, those things. I'm surprised considering how easy it is to kill them, but I digress. What matters here is that the plants are now making their move against the zombies by taking back what is rightfully theirs, and they brought some help from both the past and future. The zombies also prepared for this fight, so now the battle rages on once again. It's a basic setting, but I honestly think it really works well. This atmosphere is nailed. It feels so dreary, and I love it. I think Garden Warfare 2 has the best one out of any PvZ game easily. But that's enough about the story. For now, you're familiar with the basics, so now we'll dive into Garden Warfare 2 and its gameplay. Oh, this is amazing. So I want to start off this section by saying that I'm not going to treat you guys like you don't know how Garden Warfare 1 or Garden Warfare 2 plays. Most of you already know, so instead I'll just compare and contrast the differences, to give you an idea on how much more fluid Garden Warfare 2 really is. So to start out, in Garden Warfare 1, there was this weird netcode issue where no matter what, sometimes you would just lag. Yeah, Garden Warfare 2 doesn't really have that problem. On top of that, this game is better optimized too. To give an example on what I mean by that, here's All-Star Sprint Tackle from Garden Warfare 1, and here it is in Garden Warfare 2. The difference is so small, but it's so big too. But okay, these are quality of life fixes and optimizations. What about the actual feel of it all? Well, yeah. This feels like Garden Warfare 1, but more consistent, I suppose. The camera has been readjusted for the characters, so now it feels different to aim. PopCap also gave the zooming out an animation instead of cutting it off, so now that feels more fluid too. And oh my god, I have to reiterate, these changes are so minor, but they're so good too. And that's not even talking about the core gameplay, which is fighting other players. When it comes to this aspect, Garden Warfare 2 is just a more polished Garden Warfare 1. It feels good to play, and not only that, but now we have almost twice as many characters to play, with 6 new classes and 2 other special characters that we'll discuss later. I should introduce these 6 newcomers, so let's get to it. On the plant side, we have Citron, a new tank character for the green ones, Rose, a support character that debuffs the Horde, and Corn, which is basically Foot Soldier. And as for the zombies, we have Imp, which is basically a Titanfall reference, Superbrains, a melee character for the zombies, and Deadbeard, who is the cactus equivalent to the team. So the new roster is looking good. And on top of that, the quality of life changes are too. But what about the new content? Well, this is where Garden Warfare 2 shines. The new variants, the new campaigns and hub world, as well as a bunch of stuff returning makes this game, in my eyes, the game to play for any Garden Warfare shooting action. And I'll explain why I feel this way throughout this video. As for now, let's jump into the various aspects of the gameplay one by one. Starting with the whole variant system, it works pretty similarly to how it did in Garden Warfare 1, which is to say that it is exactly the same. The only differences here are that now we have some new variants, as well as there being a new leveling system that lets you get character upgrades. So now it's not behind a paywall. Awesome. But let's get back to that variants part, because that's important. So in case you aren't familiar with what these are, this is the main gimmick behind the first two PvZ shooter games. You have these normal base characters who are pretty simple, and then you have the not so basic characters, the ones that have a different damage type or something like that. Now, what makes Garden Warfare 2 interesting is the introduction of a new type of variant, that being the legendary ones. These are characters that are super rare to get in sticker packs, but to compensate, they only need 2 pieces to be unlocked. You can also unlock a few of them via infinity time, but we'll get there soon. So to put it simply, the main gimmick behind these characters is this little bar you see here, which is their legendary meter. You fill this meter by getting vanquishes, and once you get enough, you get a boost to various stats, such as speed and damage for a few seconds. It's honestly really neat stuff, and these characters are only slightly broken. Considering Garden Warfare 1's balancing, yeah, it's nice to see that this game is slightly better. Now, as for the returning content here, it is exactly what you would expect. We have ops and multiplayer still kicking around, and yeah, that's the returning stuff. Oh boy, there's actual content to cover. Okay, so where do I begin? Well, let's start with what's new in the returning stuff. So starting with multiplayer, the game modes are unchanged. You have the exact same game modes to choose from, and they all play pretty well. But we did receive a change to gardens and graveyards, because now it's called Turf Takeover, with both teams now being able to attack and defend. The new maps support this feature, and the maps this time around are a bit weird. Like, I don't necessarily hate any of the new maps, but I feel like some of them are too gimmicky for their own good. Like, Time Park as a concept is so flawed, I can't even begin to fathom what made PopCap decide that it was a good idea to put in the game. But in general for the maps, they're fine, and we did get a couple returning anyways, like a remake of Garden Center and Walnut Hills. They're not super interesting, so we'll move on. As for ops, it's basically the same minus some challenge waves, but those got replaced by some new ones. Oh, and also zombies can play too. So now we'll move on to, wait, what? Yeah, so the zombies now have access to ops. Okay, that is... sorry. That's just a completely random change, but I am more than okay with it. I remember the pure hype to hear that news. Kid me was freaking the frick out when they saw that reveal trailer. It's so hype even watching it nowadays. But besides that, yeah, ops and multiplayer matches are all relatively unchanged. It's how you access them and the maps you play on that actually changed. So on that topic, now it's time to introduce the Backyard Battleground. This is a hub world for this game, and it's used as a center point for all activities you can get involved with. There's a lot to talk about with the gameplay, so let's get right into it. First are the areas that direct you to the multiplayer game modes and ops, which are to be expected, but we also have access to each campaign too. And the campaigns themselves are pretty big, with each story centering on your character going up the ranks of each respective team's ladder, leading you to become their best soldier. Now, as for how the campaigns actually play out, yeah, I mean, it's alright. I'll be honest, this is one of Garden Warfare 2's weaker aspects, as each campaign does have their moments, but they're overall not really worth playing for their stories as much as their coins and their access to a new ops-like game mode, Infinity Time. I mentioned this one before, but now we'll actually talk about it. This game mode basically plays out the exact same as Ops does, only now you're defending a few select points, and you're playing as either a large robotic dinosaur or cat. You have an absurd amount of HP, and your kit is super powerful, but in return, you also can't heal unless you vanquish enemies and pick up these crystals. Oh, and as for those enemies, gnomes. Yep, dead serious. Gnomes are treated as a highly intelligent species above both the plants and zombies in this game, and it's super funny. I can't lie. That's actually what this place revolves around, and I find it to be super neat. Now, as for what you get out of this game mode, well, this is where the party characters come into play. See, the party characters can be unlocked here if you reach a certain amount of crystals, so there's actually quite a bit of incentive to play this, just to get those characters. Now, I'll admit, the game mode itself doesn't have much going on besides this, so it gets boring really quickly, but it's still something. And I'll take something over nothing any day. Now, as for any other content that I could throw into the gameplay section due to its uniqueness, we do have one more thing, and that is the Town Hall events. So, the Town Hall is in the very middle of the map, and it's basically a hub where you can play modified game modes. So as an example, we have Taco Bandits returning under a new name and a new gimmick, where now both teams capture and defend tacos. Honestly, should have been like that from the start, but whatever. There's also unique game modes here nowadays, like Rando's Rapid Revenge, oh god. But unfortunately, most of the interesting ones, like the boss hunts and soil survivors, aren't even playable due to this game not being supported anymore. So yeah, don't have much more to add to this topic unfortunately. And that's about it for the main gameplay. I'll admit, it's hard to quantify what counts as the core game modes and the extra content, but with that being said, next we'll get into what I consider to be So to start out this section, let's get this right out of the way. New customizations. A lot of new customizations. How is the number that high? Well, it's because PopCap made a variant of every single cosmetic in the game, and yeah, they go in the order of silver, gold, diamond, gem, scrumptious, and infinity. The vast majority don't have all 6, but a lot of them have 4 at least. Yeah, what a way to inflate the sticker packs, am I right? Oh, and as for those sticker packs, we do have some new items to get besides regular customization. Since Graveyard Ops is now a thing, PopCap had to add new consumables, those being plant spawnables and zombie bots. Both are very neat, and honestly, it's fitting that both teams now sit on equal grounds. Except for the fact that zombies have the uplink bot, and that is disgusting. We also have legendary hats now, which are hats that give you a special effect or sound whenever you get a kill. It's neat, I guess, but I don't really like any of these because of how tacky they are. So yeah, still neat. Oh, and on that topic of tackiness, we also have a new face that's selling exotic goods to us, and his name is Rux. He is in no way affiliated with Xur, I promise. Anyways, Rux is a vendor that sells exclusively legendary hats, rare customizations, and special abilities. Most of these are blingy remakes of meh abilities, but there are a couple of unique ones, such as both of the garlic drones. Yeah, one of these is better than the other, PopCap being PopCap, what a shocker. But as for some of the other rare cosmetics, you can also buy sticker packs that give you scrumptious and infinity versions of certain cosmetics in the game, which are actually the other potential rewards you could get from Infinity Time. Oh, and you also have the chance of getting party characters from these packs. So basically, you don't have to play the game mode if you don't want to. And on my official Garden Warfare 2 account, I have maxed these packs. I don't have any anymore. I got every single character from them. Listen, I don't like Infinity Time, what can I say? In terms of other extras, we also have the extra content in the backyard itself. So to give some examples, there's various NPCs you can interact with that give you small quests to do, as well as a bounty board that rewards you stars that can unlock chests and boost your XP. There's also multiple collectathons that span across the entire backyard and even some multiplayer maps. There's some minigames you can play, like a timed gnome firing range and a pirate ship shootout, and there's even an endless wave game mode right in the middle of the backyard called the Flag of Power, which lets you fight your enemies for as long as you can last. There is obviously a lot more going on here, but realistically, I think I'd like to save some of the surprises for those who don't know. However, I will be spoiling one major part of DLC, so if you don't want to get spoiled on this yet, skip to the timestamp here. Anyways, with those nerds gone, in the town hall area, there is a bird that has a key that you can buy, and there are some chests that you can unlock with currency you earn from the event portal. The most expensive of these chests will drop you a key, and when it does, you can go into the sewers and unlock a new door that leads you to a gnomish landscape. Here you can use the key you got to unlock a trial, and the trials themselves range from being trivial to being a nightmare. But anyways, once you beat a trial, you're led to a floating set of tiles. These tiles are here to be remembered, so you have to take a screenshot of them, and you basically rinse and repeat this process by getting more keys and such. Then you take them to a portal, you enter the code, and I'm just gonna cut to the chase. Completing these trials and defeating the gnome bosses, while also solving the puzzles, leads you to one final area where you can unlock 2 new characters, Torchwood and Hovergoat 9000. These 2 characters are completely optional to unlock, but they do count towards full completion, so yeah, I figured I should bring them up in the video. They're very unique, and honestly, I think that's what makes them cool. But overall, this is by far the biggest piece of extra content in this game. Like I said before, there's more we can cover, but at this rate, you get the idea. There is a ton to do in Garden Warfare 2 compared to Garden Warfare 1. And with that in mind, I think it's time we discuss the final big part of this video, that being... So, you want to complete Garden Warfare 2? Well, on the achievement side, you can't. Some achievements are completely locked behind limited time modes or events that are no longer ran, so it is completely impossible to actually complete this game on console. But there is another way of completion: max rank. Garden Warfare 1's max rank is 313, but due to this game's leveling system being completely different, it's actually pretty easy to get max rank if you grind. I put about 500 hours into the game to get 5455, and it was a relatively fun process. That broke me. I never want to play this game again. Jokes aside, this number is actually supposed to be higher, but PopCap locked the plant behind getting max rank in Garden Warfare 1 before 2017. And guess what? Almost nobody has that plant legitimately, so they had to make a new character that works very similarly to it, just to let people get max rank. PopCap, think about your choices before you make them. Now as for the endgame parts, well, that's it. Go for achievements or get max rank. It's your choice. Yeah, for as amazing as Garden Warfare 2 is, I'll admit that it suffers from PvZ shooter syndrome, where the endgame is just multiplayer, which the vast majority of people have been playing. So that's all I have to say about this game. Garden Warfare 2 is a really good time, and I firmly believe that it is in the top 3 best games in this franchise. It is so good. It just outshines Garden Warfare 1 so much in my opinion. Like, Garden Warfare 1 is basically a tech demo compared to this. And yeah, in a technical sense, it kind of was. But that's just how I feel about Garden Warfare 2. Obviously, I'm just one person. What are your thoughts on this game? Let me know what you think and more in the comments down below. And if you're new around here and you like what you saw, then maybe consider subscribing too. It helps me out a ton. And with that being said, my heart goes out to all PC shooter players. But I'll see you all in November for Heroes, so peace.